On this episode of the Educational Duct Tape Podcast, I'm joined by Shantel Lott, EdTech enthusiast and lead learning guide at Fried Tech, to tackle an important question: how can we help students self-assess their learning? We dive into tools like Snorkl, NotebookLM, Curipod, Knowt, and more. Plus, she suggests a super cool application of Magic School's Custom Chatbot builder. And before we wrap it up, I've got some updates on using Google Gemini in the classroom, as well as new features in Padlet Sandbox and a new tool for auto-creating slideshows. So right before I hit record, my dog Tuck let out this big snore. Honestly, every time I sit down to prep, or even while I'm recording, Tuck, our Boston Terrier, is right here, curled up on the floor, snoring softly, occasionally lifting his head to give me one of his looks. He's got one that says, "Dad, that was a silly thing to say." Another that says, "You're embarrassing me with those voices." And a snore that says, "This is really boring." At least I think that's what he's saying. But let's be honest, Tuck's not exactly giving me clear, actionable feedback. He's just my adorable, mostly quiet sidekick. And that brings me to today's sponsor, M2 by Swivl. M2 is the intelligent co-teacher I wish I had. Like Tuck, it could be quietly present while you teach, but unlike Tuck, M2 actually has something useful to say. "Sorry, buddy, Daddy still loves you." But with just a tap and a voice command, M2 gives real-time support, live teaching tips, and personalized feedback to help teachers grow. Check it out at swivl.com/M2. That's SWIVL.com/ the letter M and the number 2. Again, swivl.com/M2.
Welcome to the Educational Duct Tape Podcast with Jake Miller.
Welcome in, duct tapers. Thanks for being here today for episode 120 of the show. I appreciate you for joining me today. Before we get to it, I'm going to go with a slight format change in upcoming episodes. I'm going to rotate between episodes that have a guest and episodes that have a soapbox moment. They both take a lot of time to prepare: recording with a guest, editing the episode with a guest, making that all happen, and researching and preparing for a soapbox moment, and then recording that soapbox moment. So I'll rotate on and off again. So today we've got an amazing guest, Shantel Lott. Next week, unfortunately, we don't have a guest. You've just got me to deal with a soapbox moment and some ed tech news. But I'm hoping that this will make it easier for me to bring one episode per week to you. Before we get to that interview with Shantel, I'd like to ask you and remind you to share about the show. I really hope to help as many educators as possible with the wisdom and guidance that my guests share, and with the ed tech news that I'm sharing, and hopefully they'll tolerate me in those soapbox moments. So let your colleagues know, interact with the show on Blue Sky, especially with the hashtag EduDuctTape, or share your thoughts on some of the things you hear on the show's SpeakPipe page, which is speakpipe.com/EduDuctTape, or hop on social media and use that hashtag EduDuctTape. Now, without further ado, let's get to our guest for today.
Today's guest.
Today, our guest is Shantel Lott. Shantel is an EdTech enthusiast and lead learning guide at Fried Tech. She is certified in Google and Microsoft and empowers educators to integrate tech into their classrooms. Whether in person or virtual, Shantel's passion is making learning engaging and innovative. You could find her on all of the social medias at Lots of EdTech. That's Lots, Lotts, like her last name, of EdTech, like the thing that she talks about. You can also find her on the Fried Technology website at friedtechnology.com, and a link to her email address and LinkedIn account, as well as all of those other things, are in the show notes. But not in the show notes, actually here in the podcast is the actual Shantel. What's up, Shantel? How you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing great. We were just reminiscing about seeing each other in Mississippi a couple years back for a conference. Yes, lots of fun. Yeah.
Yes, Mississippi was awesome. Not only do I love the food, my family is from Mississippi. Fun fact, a lot of Lotts are from Mississippi. So lots of Lotts in Mississippi. And so, yeah, it was pretty cool to hang out there and not only get to see, everybody hang out in Jackson, but we went down to the coast, like Gulfport as well. Wow. So, yeah, and my family's from that area, Pascagoula, if you know, right? Shout out to Pascagoula. That's where my family's from.
I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about right now. It sounds wonderful.
Yes.
It sounds like a place where I can get some wonderful jambalaya in Pascagoula. Yes. Is that accurate?
Yeah, gumbo. I have a
Gumbo
whole
too.
story about how my grandma one year had me over for, I think it was like the Thanksgiving holiday or break or something, and she cooked a whole pot of gumbo, no salt. So grandma was trying to be health conscious. It was great. It was great until I realized there was no salt. I was like, okay. So, we're supporting wise choices, but I miss the salt. I miss the salt.
You
So,
just like sneak your bowl out of the room and like add your own in there.
Add salt, yes.
Just sprinkle a little bit extra in there.
Yes.
So Shantel, you taught me a new term before we started recording. I'm going to ask you to share this term with all listeners. So I was making sure I was pronouncing your name right. And you told me that some people say Shantel and some people say Shantel. And you just respond to both, right? It's just like natural.
Yes,
You don't even
I'm
notice the
sound
difference.
blind. Sound blind there, but that's because the story is, right? My dad named me and he called me Sean and my mom calls me Shan, so I'm sound blind to both. I pronounce it Sean because, that's, he named me, so I go with that, but I am sound blind.
But you told me
Also, or nose blind, akin to nose blind, right? When you don't smell something.
See, I've never heard of nose blind. That is a totally new term to me. I've never heard this term.
Oh, yes. Well, it's not good to be nose blind, but sometimes it happens.
Like, that's like when my wife's like, "Did you smell that?" And I'm like, "No, I don't smell anything. I must be nose blind, apparently."
Yes, absolutely.
New to me. You're teaching me new things. Well, I think you're going to teach us tons of new things today when we get into talking about some self-assessment ideas and self-assessment tools. But first, we got to keep having a little bit of fun. Are you up for some fun, Shantel?
Sure.
Okay, we always start off with a game, and we're going to start with a game of 2 truths and 1 lie.
2 truths and 1 lie.
As listeners to the show know, you're going to tell me 3 statements. 2 will be true, 1 will be a lie. I will try to figure out which one's the lie. I'll do a bad job of it. I'll probably get it wrong, and I'll probably forget to figure out which one's the lie because I always butcher this game, even though this is episode 120, and I've played 2 truths and 1 lie in probably 80 of them, and I still will mess it up. But you're going to give me those 3 statements, and I'm going to do my best. And regardless, we're going to have fun. That's the one thing that matters here is we're going to have fun when we do it. Are you ready with your statements?
Yes, I'm ready.
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, so I drove to California by myself. I've been to Disney 4 times by myself. I've been to Mount Rushmore by myself.
Whoa. All of these things are by yourself.
Yes, solo dolo.
Okay. Wow. Those are fascinating. I'm curious of the why behind the 2 that are true.
Okay.
Drove to California by yourself, went to Mount Rushmore by yourself, and went to Disney 4 times by yourself. Now, before I make my guess, I was with Victoria Thompson at the FETC conference in Florida, in Orlando. Do you know Victoria?
Yes.
Yeah, so Victoria lives down there in Orlando, and at FETC, there's like a session on the first day where some of the featured speakers present to the new attendees, just like to help them figure out the schedule and like where everything's at and stuff like that. And so she and I were there together in that, and she was like, "I think I'm going to go to lunch at Disney today." And I was like, "What? You're leaving the conference and going to Disney for lunch?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "That's why we moved to Orlando, is because we love Disney so much." And I was like, "And you're just going to like jaunt over there for a quick lunch?" And she's like, "Yeah, we go like 4 or 5 times a week, like sometimes just for lunch or just for dinner." I was like, "Oh my gosh." I go like once every 2 years when my wife makes me, and I'm like, "I hate it here." But she's like, I'm just running over for lunch. Although I guess if I was just running over for a jumbo turkey leg, I might like it. Okay, but I'm going to guess. So she goes to Disney by herself, but I'm guessing that you going to Disney 4 times by yourself is a lie.
That is actually right. I have been, I'll say I've been maybe 2 times by myself.
Really?
Yes. And then I feel like the other times I was with people. So like the first time that I went by myself, the first day I went with my mom and some family members. And then I stayed, like I had an extra day. So then I went back by myself because I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go see another park or something.
Yeah.
And then the other time, I think it was FETC. I got there a little bit early and then I could go, and just walk around and enjoy it. And It's a blast. I love it. I love Disney. I did not think that would be something that I would enjoy. So I was pleasantly surprised, and I was like, I think I am a Disney adult. Like that realization of like, okay, yeah, this is a thing. And I know people it's a hot topic, why go to Disney instead of Paris? But I feel like Disney's a little bit more accessible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not to say Paris isn't on the list.
Yeah.
It's on the list, but Disney's a little accessible. Well, I think I might have done this wrong. Okay. But also I didn't drive to California. Okay.
Oh,
so
no.
Maybe it's 2 lies and a truth. I drove to Florida, but that was my go-to. And by myself is true, but I did stop like in Louisiana. So I feel like it wasn't like a straight through.
That's
it was
okay.
like stopping in Louisiana, which is a whole nother story. But I stopped there, had fun. I think I met up with some friends because there was a festival, and then I drove the rest of the way to Florida, where my aunt lives. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So let's get this straight. We're both struggling
with
2 lies today. Okay, there's 2 lies.
2 lies and a truth.
You're stacking the deck. Actually, you're stacking the deck to help me. This is like an accommodation for Jake. Put in 2 lies, he'll be sure to find one.
I scaffolded it. It was scaffolded.
You sure did. Okay, so you've gone to Disney by yourself, but twice, not 4 times. Okay.
No, yeah.
And wasn't it you drove to California by yourself?
No, yeah. So it was actually Florida, so not California, because I was like, you learn something. Let's say that I'm not good at two truths and a lie.
We belong hanging out together, Shantel. We are both the same on this. This is how this game always ends up for me. And then the crazy thing is, I was recently interviewing Adam Juarez and Kat Goyette, who are from California. They were on the show recently. And I said something about them being from Florida. So apparently me and you both struggle with Florida and California.
Yeah.
They're just pretty much the same. It's warm there.
I mean, you flip-flop. It's coast, right?
Coast.
It's coast on both sides of the coast.
There's water.
Yeah. They're basically the same. No.
Goodness.
Shout out to all the Florida people. I don't want them to be like,
hey, we're not the same as the California people. We're different.
Yeah. Floridian. I did go to Mount Rushmore by myself. It was a wonderful experience. I was out there and I just had the opportunity to go for a day, and I did. And it was worth it. I got to see Abraham Lincoln. I was like, I should have put that on there that I met Abraham Lincoln.
You met him, but he didn't meet you.
No, it's an impersonator there, which I was not expecting, but why not? I mean, he is on Mount Rushmore, so, impersonator was pretty awesome. He had the whole hat and everything. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And it is it's in a national park and very, trees, mountainous, beautiful, but it did smell like an air freshener as soon as I got out of the car, like that strong pine smell, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, just
you were not nose blind to that.
No, I was not. I was nose aware. Nose alert.
Nose aware is the opposite. We actually had, when I used to teach middle school, we had a Abraham Lincoln impersonator come to the school to talk to the kids.
Okay.
He was like he was super knowledgeable about Lincoln's life and about all of his policy achievements and all kinds of stuff. And he kind of did an interview as Abraham Lincoln, which was actually really cool.
Yeah.
It was really
like
neat.
Your very own Lincoln. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and he looked like him too. Yeah, it was crazy. Kind of neat.
That's interesting to find where you're like, you look like Abraham Lincoln, and then you're like, this is my thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that for a job now. Okay. I guess I'm tall and skinny. Maybe I need to be a Lincoln impersonator.
Listen,
I've got a beard. Maybe I could pull it off. I just need to talk.
There's definitely a following for it. Everyone was happy to see Lincoln at the monument, so I'm sure. Like,
there we go. Okay, Shantel, now that we're being silly and choosing my future career as an Abraham Lincoln impersonator, let's go ahead and get into some educational duct tape. I probably only have like 3 or 4 more episodes of this show, and then I'm going to pivot the podcast into my Abraham Lincoln podcast
As you should.
As I should, to get my impersonation career off the ground.
It's going to be called Fourscore and Duct Tape or something.
Fourscore and duct tape. I think that's right. That's exactly right. Good plan. Fourscore and duct tape. Fourscore, educational Fourscore. I don't know. Before we transition the show into the Abraham Lincoln podcast, though, we're going to talk about educational technology. And so my question to you is, what tool or strategy would you use to facilitate students self-assessing their learning? Now, before I give you a chance to share your answer to this, I want to point out to the audience that I think self-assessing comes in a variety of different ways. Like, there's some really deep self-assessing where kids are really reflecting on their efficacy in their work, and they're thinking about where they could grow and looking at rubrics and really getting detailed into where am I at in a learning pathway or on a learning progression, what success criteria have we met. That's certainly amazing, and we want to do that kind of stuff. But then there's also some maybe quote unquote lower level stuff where they're just answering questions and finding out if they're getting them right or wrong. And I think that's really powerful too, because we want them to just be like assessing, like, did I learn this? Do I know this? Do I understand that? So any level of self-assessing is what we're talking about here. There certainly are a variety of levels, but I think they're all good. There are a variety of levels of good. And so we're going to talk about tools for self-assessment. So what's one that you love? What's the first one?
I would say I really love Snorkl. It's a pretty cool tool. Like, it's a whiteboard tool, and students can show what they know and explain maybe a concept or something like that, or, draw out a problem, and it will assess pretty much, that it also record, the students can explain as they're drawing it out, and it will assess from that recording and what they've drawn on the screen, like if they've gotten the answer correct or wrong, and give them feedback, real feedback about, you've got this part right, but you need to work on this part, and kind of break it down to them, like what parts they got right, what parts they need to work on. So I really, really like that. It's a pretty cool tool. And not only can students submit one, they can submit multiple responses. So if you didn't get it right the first time, you can resubmit, right, to work on, a particular concept that maybe you haven't grasped yet.
Wow. Okay. So I've heard of Snorkl. I've seen kind of the hype around it. I've done a little bit of exploring as to what it is, but I haven't gotten in there and used it. So I'm excited that you're sharing this so that I can hear more about it. So tell me about the assessment piece in there. So you post a prompt to the kids, right? They go in, they respond to it. They're drawing on a whiteboard, kind of like you would do in, I don't know, lots of different tools offer like a whiteboard area. They can't see what anybody else is answering, right? They're just private to their own.
Yeah. So they can't see anybody else's answer or anything like that. And then you can actually, if your prompt is just a question, you can put that there, and they can, respond to it. Or you can even put like a graphic up, and they can use that. Like, so if we're talking about food chains, right, there's a food chain graphic, and they've got to fill in the different parts of it. And then it will assess as they explain, the caterpillar eats the leaf, and the bird eats the caterpillar. They'll have to explain that whole cycle, and then it will say, yes, you got the prompt, or no, you need to work on that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So it can assess even a drawing on top of another image, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, props to you for having that food shade correct. That was very good there. The science teachers are like snapping their fingers right now at you for that.
Yes. If it was anything else, I might need a little bit of help when it comes to science. But food chain, I feel like that's a good level. Right? We still all kind of remember a little bit of the food chain.
That was good. You did good. Now, how is it assessing it? It's using AI to assess it? Does the teacher have to give any information about what the correct answer is for the AI to start with?
No, the AI literally assesses it based off the prompt that you give it, and with the, a graphic maybe that you provide, or whatever you might, add, and it will assess it for you. Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that's really cool. That's really cool. How accurate have you found it to be when you've used it, or when you've supported other teachers using it in terms of the assessments?
I found it to be pretty accurate, which is pretty cool. Like, I do, have questions about how does the AI know, but it knows. Like, I feel like it's the, how does it? But the feedback that I've seen, I've kind of played around with it. Like, it's normally spot on with the feedback that it gives to students.
That's cool. And then do teachers get good feedback or good like formative assessment data out of it as well?
Yes. So on your side, you're going to see like how, did they get, 3 points out of the 4 points? It goes like a 4 point scale.
Mm.
So, did they get a 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 4? And it kind of tracks that as they go along, and then it'll track it with each submission. So if they submit more than once, then you'll see that growth as well.
Wow. And then the kids find out right away if they got it right or wrong, right?
Mm-hmm. And it'll even read that feedback to them. So if there's a feature where it'll, read that feedback to the students if they need it. I don't know. I find myself using that often. I feel like it's like the captions on the TV, right? Like if it can be read to me, I just kind of go ahead and go with it because it's like, easier for me. I'm an auditory learner, so to kind of take in that feedback. So it's pretty cool.
Does it sound like a human talking to you when it reads it?
It's pretty smooth. I will say I am pretty impressed with some of the AI reading capabilities. It's like it's kind of cool because, the computer generated voice is what you're expecting to hear, a little bit choppy and kind of halted, but it's pretty smooth.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that like if it sounds like one of the old text-to-speech tools, from like five years ago, I don't want to listen to that, right? Like
no.
Like it was good for kids who needed it, and I'm glad there was something in there to kind of help with leveling that issue for them. But nowadays, the way some of these AI ones work, where it speaks like NotebookLM, for example, where it creates this audio that sounds like real humans talking in a podcast. Like, yeah, I could listen to that. And then if I'm getting feedback on whether I got something right or wrong, I'd love for it to come from a voice like that, where it sounds like somebody really talking to me.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. And they do have a beta. If you haven't been on NotebookLM, they have a beta where now you can talk back to the podcast and be a part of it. Super cool.
Yeah,
Love that. And then like they'll answer your questions. So maybe you have a question for the podcasters and they'll answer it. So it's NotebookLM is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. It's so cool how they like copy patterns that are in real podcasts too. Like the other day I had a podcast and the one host said to the other host, like, oh yeah, we were talking about that before we started recording. You were not. You were AI. You were not talking before we started recording.
No, we were in the back talking about it right just a couple of minutes ago. Funny you bring that up, right?
It's just like two people at the Google offices. But like they're just like, that's what people do in podcasts. So they just mimicked it, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I clearly need to explore Snorkl and spend some time with it and learn more about it because that sounds really neat. And I think I'm guessing that some people are listening and they're going, the teacher should be the one assessing that work, not an AI tool. And I hear them. I have a response to them. I'm wondering if you have thoughts on that too.
I think you always should be checking, as far as like, and, keeping an eye on what feedback students are getting from AI. I think like as the teacher, you're the ultimate resource, and you're the ultimate expert in your particular content. So you know if it's on, testing it out, if it's spot on or it needs some work. So I think, you always be involved in seeing that, and you can always go in and see what the AI responded to students and maybe make any corrections at the time and be like, hey guys, this is, maybe there is something you need to correct or whatever. So, I mean, I'll ultimately, the teacher is always the expert. I think that's kind of what I always say when it comes to AI. Like, you are the expert, the person and the official voice in the room when it comes to your particular content. So.
And can the teacher overrule how Snorkl AI scored it? If Snorkl AI said something was wrong, can the teacher go in and go like, actually, no, that was right? Can they go in and change it?
I believe so. I'm not 100% because I haven't gone in and edited that, but I will say I believe so.
Yeah, we'll have to explore that. That's a good thing to think about. And so these people that will say that, and I hear what they're saying there, and I agree with them. I think that what they'd say is not just part of it's what you said there, which is we can't trust the AI to do the assessment accurately. We should have some oversight over it, which I agree there with what you said there, that they should be checking it afterwards. But I think the other part of what they'd say is that the assessing of the learner by the teacher is also important, like for the informing the teacher's understanding of the learner's progress, as a formative assessment tool. And I get that and I agree. I think there's a limit to how much a teacher can reasonably do formative assessment. Like there's only so much time in the day. We don't have time to formatively assess everything. Like I think there should be some work done in the classroom that the teacher never assesses, because it's just, the student should be doing more work than the teacher possibly has time to assess, right? That's the way the workload should work out. We want them formatively assessing and acting on it as much as possible, but I just don't think they could assess everything.
That's true.
And the two main points with Snorkel here, one is the self-assessment power, which is what we were originally talking about, that if the teacher was assessing these things, there'd be a gap between when the kid did the work and when they found out if it was right or wrong, right?
True.
And so that's an issue, right? It's still good to have teacher feedback, even if it's time shifted forward an hour or 15 minutes or a day or whatever. But like that immediacy of the feedback is really powerful. And the other part is, I think, if I'm a teacher and I have to hand grade everything my kids do and give them feedback on it, I'm gonna do less, right? I'm gonna have less times where I have them do these things. And so then if the alternative is less formative assessment, that's not good, right? And if the alternative is students not getting immediate feedback, that's not great either. So I think that we need a balance of using these tools for their benefits, which is that immediate feedback, and that it allows teachers to get more formative assessment data and do more formative assessment than they could do if they did it manually, with some times where the teachers may be conferencing with the student about those results, or the teacher's doing some assessment that's on paper or something like that where they're doing it. So I fall on both sides of this issue. So I think I understand what those people are saying, but I think that if we don't use these tools, we're not equipping ourselves with all the abilities we could possibly have, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, so Snorkel, we talked a little bit about NotebookLM in there too. Not really a self-assessment tool, just something cool that we're both excited about. Although I guess you could, like with that questioning feature, you really could be sharing your understanding of the thing that it made the podcast on and asking it if you were correct. And it probably would give you some information on that. I've never tried that, but you really could probably do some self-assessment in there. What else would you use? So let's say you don't have access to Snorkel and you want to use something else. What else would you try?
I've started to dabble in Magic School and the custom chatbots, and being able to kind of create a personalized pathway with a custom chatbot for students. So a way in which maybe they have a first question, and if they get that first question wrong, then it helps support them with another question, with maybe like a video support or a resource, or here's what you need, to do. And then another question that's on that particular same topic before you move on to something else.
So I've gone in there and I've made the chat bot and I've given it some information. Like, for example, the other day I did one about volcanoes in a PD session, and I gave it this PDF about volcanoes, and I pasted in some learning standards about volcanoes, and I pasted in some text about volcanoes and gave it a website and said, you're a volcano chatbot. You're going to talk to kids about volcanoes. That's all you could talk to them about is volcanoes. And it went great. It was really cool. And what's cool with the Magic Student chatbots is you send it out to the kids. They don't have to have an account to use it. If they have a Magic Student account, great, but they could just type in their name when they log in, and then you as the teacher could see the whole conversation if you want.
Yeah.
And I also love that the chatbot won't have alternative discussion. So for example, in the example I did in this group, I asked it, as the student, I was being the student, I asked it a bunch of questions about volcanoes. And then I said, can you teach me a swear word in Spanish? And the chatbot was like, no, that's not what I do. Whereas had a kid ask Google or ChatGPT to do that, it would have done that. It would have just told them a swear word in Spanish. So that's the other part that's nice. But what I haven't done is this pathway idea. So are you saying that you can give it specific questions to ask the kids, and it'll ask them that question every time and then prescribe what comes next based on that?
Yes. So if you wanted to create a personalized pathway, so I'm not a math teacher, but I demoed it with math. And so the first one, I want to do simple addition. Then that's the first type of question that pops up for students. And then they answer that, either they get the answer correct, then they move on to maybe, subtraction. But if they get it wrong, then it explains, it says, oh, you got it wrong. And then it can explain to them why they got it wrong, and then give them another addition question to practice with.
Wow. That is so cool. I'm looking in Magic School right now because I'm kind of geeking out about this idea right here. Is it just the chatbot and you're telling it to do that, or is there a specific tool that's built for pathways? Like, is this is this a Shantel creation or is this a Magic School feature?
Well, this is, I guess, like a Shantel creation. I kind of thought about like, could I do a personalized pathway? So I'm just using the custom bot. So I prompt it with, okay, here is the first, type of question that I want you to ask.
Oh, cool.
And then it generates that question. I like it for math because of the, it can just generate, different math problems and I don't have to necessarily tell it this problem is the first one. But like for your volcanoes, you could give it something very specific. Like, I'm not a volcano wizard, but, some question about maybe, the different types of rock or whatever,
that works.
Or lava or magma or whatever, all those things. You could prompt it for that question. And if they don't get it right, then it gives the, okay, here's the support for, what magma is or what lava is. Okay, now here's another type of question about volcanoes that's along that same line, molten rock or something.
This is so cool. This is such a cool idea. I never thought about like telling it how the conversation should flow, not just what to talk to them about, because when I made that volcano one that I made, it really was just like, I'm here to talk to you about volcanoes. What questions do you have? And it could have some cool conversations with the kids, but you're really saying like, ask them this. If they get it right, then do this. If they get it wrong, then do this. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Ooh. I love this idea. I'm going to go play with it right now. It's not going to give the teachers any data. I want to point out like Snorkel, you're going to be able to see like right or wrong. Whereas here, the teacher's not going to get any data out of this. But we're talking self-assessment here, right?
Yeah.
We're really talking about sending the students. And that's what we want. Even though we want a teacher to do formative assessment and craft the learning experiences based on what's happening with the kids, we also want the kids to be a driver of their learning. Like we want this to be learner driven. We want kids in the driver's seat as much as possible, self-assessing and finding out if they're right or wrong. That's really neat.
And I'm definitely thinking, blending, like if it's math and, they're going through that different pathway and then they've got to write down that question. I mean, I love that idea, of like them solving it that way and, being able to kind of blend the learning that way instead of just like, of course, if, your mental math is amazing, then you can go through it that way. But I would love to, see kids just like solving it out, writing it out. And then when it does break down the problem, it does show you like the steps, it breaks it down.
Yeah. That's pretty neat. That's really cool. And I love that you could probably then in your prompt, like some math teachers are like, well, we're solving these kinds of problems, but we're solving them this way. And we haven't learned how to solve them this other way yet. We're trying to master this specific strategy maybe. And I'd be worried that the chatbot would show the wrong strategy, but you could probably prompt it. This is how these kids are learning to solve. When you show them a solution, use this strategy. Right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I'm not a math teacher, so I just dabbled in it, but I'm pretty sure you could prompt it by telling it, we're doing I think it's a window pane. We're doing the window pane method or whatever it might be, instead of another way in which, they would solve it.
Do you ever have one of those moments mid-lesson where you're thinking, okay, how can I explain this better? Or is this even making sense for the kids? Yeah, me too. My office buddy, Tuck, the Boston Terrier, he can't really help with that. But today's sponsor, M2 by Swivl, can. M2 is like having a smart, calm co-teacher in the room. It doesn't interrupt or take over. It just listens. And when you need it, you click a button and say things like, ask M2 a question, or translate that, or even tell me a joke. Yes, M2 can actually tell jokes. You also get live teaching tips based on your goals. No awkward video reviews, no extra coaching sessions, just insights when you want them, plus personalized feedback after class on pacing, engagement, and questioning. Tuck, are you asleep again over there? Ugh. If you're ready for a co-teacher that won't nap through your lessons, head to swivl.com/M2 to learn more, or even sign up for a free demo in your school. That's swivl.com/M and the number 2. Again, swivl.com/M2. Now back to our interview with Shantel Lott. Yeah, this is really neat. And I think I would also point out that to do this really well, I bet that's a pretty time-consuming process to craft that chatbot to do this pathway really well. However, you could use a tool like ChatGPT or like Claude to help you build the prompt that you give to Magic School.
Yeah.
Right? You could kind of flesh it out a little bit and then ask ChatGPT to kind of fill in the pathway, bring it into Magic School, tweak it a little bit, and then that chatbot is created that way. That'd be kind
Yeah,
of
you really can use any of those to help. Like if you have a kind of an idea about it, it will help you with that prompting. But even Raina inside of Magic School, she'll also help you with like coming up with that prompt. Like and then it's kind of like a trial and error. I've done it before. And like if you'll put it in and then you'll be like, no, that's not how I want it to go, and then you go back and you fix your prompt, adjust, right, to get it to go the way that you want. But yeah, it's once you have it, and the structure, you're kind of good to go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, does Raina come up right there in that chatbot to talk to, or do you have to go separately to like the Raina tab and then come back?
She should pop up underneath when you're doing your chatbot, but the way I did it, I just went to Raina first and helped and I think there's a tool to help you with the prompting. So you can either use that tool or Raina and then, flesh it out there. And then when I was doing it in Raina, it generated the chatbot for me in there. So I could kind of like demo it and play around with it first and then be like, oh, no, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah. What's cool about doing it with Raina is that for those people listening that don't know what Raina is kind of like the teacher chatbot inside. They call it the instructional coach inside of Magic School that the teacher could talk to get ideas for how to, whatever, any classroom ideas. And it's built on a lot of like pedagogical knowledge. So whereas ChatGPT does great stuff, ChatGPT is not built specifically as a teacher tool, and Raina is, right? So it's going to give you really good teacher advice. And I think as I was asking that question, I realized I think in the free Magic School, you have access to Raina just in like the Raina tab that you were using, but you don't have access to Raina within the chatbot creation tools. But you'd be able to do what you're saying, which is go to Raina, craft the prompt there, and then come back over. So it would work out perfect. Wow. This is really cool, Shantel.
Thank you.
You got me geeking out on this one a little bit. So I don't think we really need to share any other ideas. I think the Snorkel idea and this Magic Student custom pathway bot are great ideas. But what other like rapid fire little ones would you throw in? Like, so if we want to empower kids to know where they're at and their understanding on a concept, what other tools would you use?
Okay, rapid fire. I like Curipod. I mean, that's like, taking you through the lesson, but you've got those moments where like you can ask questions, whole group, students get their feedback, whether they, got it right or wrong, or we poll and we ask, like, what do you guys see the answer is? And then we can address it there. So it's got some nice options there for activities throughout your lesson. But then it's got the reflection or the AI feedback part where you can have students respond to a prompt and then it will give them feedback, right? While we're going through. So like, if I'm going back to a food change or the water cycle, whatever, you give it, we've been learning about it. Now tell me, like an ending question or an exit ticket, if you will, about like what you've learned today and the water cycle or, whatever the prompt might be. And then it'll give them feedback real time, like, to whatever they wrote about, like, oh, your argument here is strong. You need to work on this, or, oh, great job with this, but, make sure to, cite some evidence here or whatever it might be. So I like that AI feedback piece there. They also have an AI whiteboard as well. So you could also, have the students draw, right, the water cycle and then get feedback off of that as well.
And does it auto grade it kind of in the way Snorkel does?
It does.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So Curipod, for listeners that maybe aren't familiar with Curipod, started during the whole like AI like explosion. They were kind of one of the first educational tools on the scene. And what they were doing then was really just automatically generating presentations. Like that was pretty much all they did, which was really cool. Like you'd go like, I need a slideshow on this topic. It would create it. And now it's built in some of the kind of like Nearpod Pear Deck kind of features where it's like AI generated the work for you and you could tweak it, but now you could then craft a lesson that kids go through with you, either synchronously or asynchronously, I think. But I didn't realize it had these AI pieces in there too with the feedback and whiteboard. I knew they had some updates coming up. That must have been amongst the updates. Yeah. So I love
Cool.
these tools that give the kids instantaneous feedback, which is kind of the self-assessment point, but then also give us good formative data too. So it's kind of doing both, which is great.
And then you could also do Knowt, which is a newer tool, and it's basically flashcard based. So students could upload their notes on there, and it'll generate flashcards for them and quiz them on different things, or you as the teacher can generate a set of flashcards to quiz students over information. And it can be AI generated, like I said, from a resource or notes or whatever. You maybe have a PowerPoint or a PDF or whatever it might be, and it'll generate flashcards off of that. And then it has all of the different methods in which students can quiz themselves on it, different little games, matching, and all that kind of stuff in there.
Okay, you're going to have to spell Knowt for everybody.
Knowt.
Yes. So it is Knowt, like no, like I know that with the T at the end, but it sounds like it's N-O-T-E. Everybody just Google that and they're like, I can't find Knowt anywhere.
Yeah.
So. This is another one that's new to me. Like I've heard of it and I've seen it out there, but I haven't messed with it. Their site calls themselves the #1 free Quizlet alternative. It's like throwing some shade right there, but it's okay.
A little bit of shade, yeah.
Actually, I'm now looking at the page right now, and they've got their Knowt like dragon standing in front of a tombstone that says "R.I.P. Quizlet" on it. Have you seen this?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, and you could just pull your Quizlet games right into there too.
I think his name is Kai, right? Kai the dragon.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll have to check him out. But yeah, AI flashcards, AI summary. I got to explore this one. This is cool.
Yeah.
And all free. Sure looks like it is.
Free 99?
Free 99. Hey, if it's 99 cents, if it's free dollars at 99 cents, I think that's fine. This is cool. Yeah, so this is a good one too. Look at that rapid fire. You gave me two amazing ones with Curipod and Knowt. Other ones in that magic brain of yours there?
I mean, of course, Adobe Express has portfolio, so that's always like a cool one for your students to kind of reflect on their learning if you're looking for something that's like visual or, kind of them putting together some kind of in reflection of what they've learned, like maybe if they're doing like a science experiment and like what we researched and kind of what we found along the way kind of thing. So their portfolios are pretty cool for that. And then of course, Padlet, Padlet's a tried and true way for students to kind of reflect about their learning and post. And now they can do it in multiple ways, video, audio, post an image, whatever. I mean, now there's built-in, AI image generation in there as well. So some cool stuff.
That's nice. I love that those last two, you're pointing out kind of a different version of self-assessment, which you're not going to go into Adobe Express and make a portfolio or into Padlet and do some reflections and have it like tell you if you're right or wrong, right? This is kind of a different piece of self-assessment. One piece of self-assessment is just knowing, am I right or wrong? But the other is just the reflection and the thinking about where you're at in your learning journey. And so those tools are really good to document your learning process and reflect on where you're at. Because really, while we love these things that auto grade, and I think they are really powerful, there's also some benefit in the kid having to self-grade, essentially, which is what self-assessment really is, for them to look at a learning progression or a standard or a rubric or something like that and think about like, where am I at? Do I understand this? Do I get this? Like without having it auto graded. So I think there's kind of two pieces to it. And that's a really strong point, that some of those tools where they're showing what they've done or reflecting on their journey would be really powerful too. I like that a lot. Yeah. I want to throw into like some of the old school ones still have some value here too. Like even though Knowt throws some shade at them, using Quizlet to do flashcards. Like if you've got access to Quizlet and you're using that, nothing wrong with that. I'm a Quizizz fan. Quizizz, nice because I could just send out a link and kids could just practice in a variety of different game modes and things like that to get some data in there.
And what I like about Quizizz is that you can use the AI to help you with explanations for the questions. So why did I get it right? Why did I get it wrong?
Ooh, that's
those explanations that it can be built in there. And then they also have the cool accommodation profile that you can set up for students who need that support. So
yes, yeah, two great things that they've added in recent years, that AI feedback. And you can use AI to generate your questions and things like that too.
Yeah.
And of course you want to check that, but then the accommodations in Quizizz is just amazing. The different features they have in there, and you can say this kid always gets reduced choices in their multiple choice questions, and it just always eliminates 2 of the wrong answers or whatever for them, which is really wonderful that it has lots of accessibility features built into it by design, which is great. And then Kahoot, I know, also does some of that kind of stuff too. So some other great features there, just doing some simple stuff where they could self-assess. And we just want to give kids the opportunity to continually be finding out, do I understand this? Where am I at in my learning of this? Put them in the driver's seat of knowing that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, this was great stuff, Shantel. Lots of great ideas. I expected maybe like Shantel would bring me one or two like new ideas. You're like blowing my mind with all the new stuff. I'm now going to spend the rest of my day exploring all these things.
Well, I'm glad that I could, derail your plans for the day.
Anytime my plans are derailed to explore education things is a good day. I'm good with that. Well, thank you so much for visiting today and for joining us, Shantel, and for all the sharing. Like I said earlier, Shantel's contact information will all be in the show notes. Go in there, click follow, and engage with her. Ask her questions if you got any, either about grandma's gumbo recipe or Mount Rushmore or the Abraham Lincoln impersonator, or about one of these ed tech tools or strategies that she shared today. Reach out to her. Thanks so much for being here, Shantel.
Thanks for having me. I had a blast, talking about all things ed techy, volcanoes, really pulling on my knowledge for some of these concepts. No, I had a great time.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. All right. Such a fun time having Shantel on the show. As you could tell from having listened, she had so much good insight and was so fun to talk to. I'm so glad I finally got to have her on. I hope you'll all follow her and check out more of her work. Now, I'd like to dive into some EDU or EdTech news to share with you. I've got 4 different pieces here. First up in EdTech news, I recently dug into Google's policies for generative AI use with students. A while back, they made Gemini available for teens using their Google Workspace for Education accounts. So teens, that's 13 and up, if they're on their Google Workspace for Education school account, they now could potentially have access to Google Gemini. If you haven't heard about this yet, it might just be because your school hasn't turned it on. But if your school chooses to do so, it's totally free to set that up for them to use. Google reports that this is a teen-friendly version, not the regular version of Gemini, but a teen-friendly, school-friendly version built with safety front and center. The blog post with the announcement, which I'll link in the show notes, but the blog post with the announcement says that there are content guardrails to block age-inappropriate material, a fact-checking feature that encourages students to verify info, and even some AI literacy resources. So one of them is a short video that's co-signed by two groups called Connect Safely and the Family Online Safety Institute, FOSI. I don't actually know either of these organizations well. If you do, let me know your take. But they position themselves as advocates for kids' privacy and safety online. So it's good if those are good organizations, which I assume they are. It's good having them partner with Google to make sure this stuff is safe for kids to have access to. What really caught my eye about this access to Google Gemini for teens with their school accounts is this learning coach feature that they're saying is coming soon. It's not out yet as of the time that I'm recording this, but they say learning coach is coming. They describe it as a custom Gemini version powered by their tool LearnLM, LM standing for language model. So we call something like Gemini or ChatGPT. Those are large language models, LLMs. This is a LearnLM, so it's their tool. It's a language model for learning. And they're saying that it helps students study with step-by-step guidance, with quizzes, and with games about the thing that they're learning about. So basically, it's like an AI tutor. Now, it's not out yet. I haven't seen it. I'm eager to see what it's like, but I'm excited about the potential of it. Whether that excites or concerns you, however you feel about it, it's definitely something to make sure that you're aware of. Admins, heads up, I want to point out, as I said earlier, that this whole feature set is off by default. So you've got the wheel here. If you want to enable it, you have the ability to do that by flipping the switch in the admin console. If you don't want kids to have access to it, you've got that option too. I should point out, I'm not a Google admin console person, but I'm guessing that this falls under that change we talked about in a recent episode where schools need parent permission to allow student access to these non-core student services. I'm assuming this is non-core, so they automatically have access to Google Drive and Google Classroom and Google Docs. I'm guessing that this teen school version of Google Gemini is not a core service, which means parents will need to give permission for their kids to have access to this, as they probably should. That should be the case. So I'm sure some of you are hyped about this. I'm sure others of you are side-eyeing it hard, feeling a little suspicious of it, and I want to hear it all. Share your thoughts on Blue Blue Sky with the hashtag EduDuctTape, or you can send me a voice message at speakpipe.com/EduDuctTape, and we could share your insights in the show. And hey, if you have tried any of this with your students, I'd especially love to hear from you. So our next item is about creating Google Slides. Now, if you are anything like me with your Google Slides, there are two modes that you have when you make slides. Mode 1, white background, black text. Just get the content in there because there's no time to make it look nice. That's my first mode with Google Slides. Mode 2 is meticulously crafted slides with a color palette that's totally on brand and transitions that are chef's kiss. But I barely finish the content because I spend way too long in the visuals. Those are my two modes, and I literally have no in between. It's either white background, black text, no visuals, or beautiful visuals, not all the content, no in between. And in both cases, time is the issue that's affecting me. Either I don't have enough time to make the slides look good, or I spend so much time making them look good that I don't get all the content in. So when companies and ed tech tools talk about AI-powered slide creation tools, my ears perk up. I'm definitely listening. That's very interesting to me. So joining that list of AI-powered slide creation tools is a tool I heard about recently called Alayna AI. That's Alayna AI. It's an add-on for Google Slides that generates full presentations from prompts, articles, even YouTube videos. So you tell it what you want or you give it something to base it on, and it generates a presentation for you in Google Slides, meaning you can then edit it, but you just type in that topic or upload some materials or give it an outline and boom, you've got your structured, ready-to-go slide deck. Now, there are some AI slides creation tools out there that will do this, and you just get white background, black text. Content is relatively on point, but they don't look pretty. That's fine. Others, maybe it looks great, but it doesn't have the content. That's great too. But in Alayna AI, it's not just like a rough draft or a sad set of black and white slides. It adds engaging images, detailed speaker notes also to support you as a teacher or presenter, and it uses professionally designed, educator-friendly templates to make it look nice. So basically, you're going to get slides out of this tool that don't scream, I made this during the last 5 minutes of my planning period. So the slides actually look good, and it also supports all grade levels and subjects, and you can adjust content for different learning levels or even languages. Super handy for differentiation, which is great with that language differentiation and learning level differentiation. You can always make more slides based on the needs of your learners. Now, before you dive into using Alayna AI, a few things to know from their terms of service and their privacy policy. First of all, this is for educators only, because you've got to be at least 18 to create an account. So you cannot use this with your students. You can present the slides to your students, but you can't have them use Alayna AI to make slides. It also has a limited knowledge base. So unless you're using the web research feature, the AI's info stops at 2021. So double check anything involving current events. And last, think about privacy. Anytime you use an edtech tool, definitely an AI edtech tool, don't include student data. Stick to general lesson content. Understand that your prompts and the files that you're uploading are being processed by third-party models. That's OpenAI and Anthropic are the AI models they're using, but they're not being used to train the AI. So it is going off to that third-party AI model to process them, but they're not then taking that in and using it to train the AI. And finally, your data, so those things you upload and stuff like that, is stored securely, which is good, and stays on there for 30 days before deletion. So it's good that it's deleted. But maybe most importantly with AI, you know what I always say, AI generated content is not always perfect. So proofread what it gives to you, make your tweaks, and then let me know. How well did it do? I want to hear about it. I've watched some videos, I've explored some resources, but I haven't really used it that much. So I'd love to hear from you. How did it do when you tried Alayna AI? Or if you prefer an alternative to Alayna AI, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Hashtag EduDuctTape on Blue Sky or speakpipe.com/EduDuctTape to drop a voice message to be on the show. Next up, Padlet just added a little sparkle to its sandbox feature, Sparkle. So before I get into what the sparkle is, for those of you who are familiar with Padlet but haven't used Padlet Sandbox yet, let's talk about what that is. Padlet Sandbox is their collaborative digital canvas. It's their Google Jamboard alternative. Honestly, they came out with it right around the time Google announced that Jamboard was going away. So it's their alternative to Jamboard. It's got more features than Jamboard, which can be a good thing if you like features, or it could be a bad thing if you really like the simplicity of Jamboard. But Padlet Sandbox is designed for drawing, writing, dropping in media, building interactive lessons or presentations, and more. So you can do lots of stuff in here. And now, along with that lots of stuff, they've added some additional features to make Sandbox a little more fun too. So what they've added are sound effects and visual effects that you can have trigger when students click on objects. So you want some confetti when they pick the right answer? You want some fireworks when they finish a project? Want an applause sound when they open the next card in a slideshow? All possible in Padlet Sandbox and all fun. Setup also is super simple for doing this. When you add an object, you'll see a little FX button, the letters FX. You click that button, you could choose from 6 different visual effects and 181 sound effects. Yes, 181. Why not stop at 180? I don't know. That other one must have been awesome. Anyhow, I'm fully expecting someone that's listening to this right now to build a lesson using only farm animal sounds from this effects library. Please let that person be you. And then please send me a link. I should point out that these effects in Padlet Sandbox only work in play mode. So when you're editing, you're not going to trigger any of those effects when you click on things in the edit mode, distraction free, which I think is really nice. But once you're presenting, then it's game on for all of these effects. Moo, quack, applause, fireworks, ooh, ah. They're all going to come up when you're in play mode, presentation mode. If you want to see some examples of what this looks like, the blog post also shows examples like a clickable US climate map or a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire quiz that reacts with the right or wrong sound effects based on the answer you give. Is that your final answer? Oh, wait, I didn't ask you a question yet. My question is, have you played around with these features yet? I want to see what you came up with. Tell me all about it. Drop your ideas on Blue Sky with hashtag EduDuctTape or send me a message at speakpipe.com/EduDuctTape. Bonus points, by the way, for anyone that includes a goat noise in their Padlet Sandbox. That's bonus points in a game in which we're not actually counting points. All right, we're going to pivot a little bit for today's final piece. This is not your standard EdTech news update, but it's actually a podcast recommendation about EdTech-ish things. And trust me, it is worth a listen. It's so worth a listen that I may even listen to this episode I'm going to share with you a second time. I listened once. I loved it. I might go listen again. It is an episode of the podcast Search Engine, which I had not heard of. I have not heard of their host, PJ Vogt, I believe is how you say his last name. I had not heard of him either. But recently, I discovered that they dropped an episode titled, What Should We Do About Teens Using AI to Do Their Homework? Now, this episode originally had the much cooler title Playboy Farty and his AI homework machine. And yes, that title alone did pull me in to listen to the episode. And you'll understand the Playboy Farty reference when you listen. Anyhow, the episode features a teenager. That's where the Playboy Farty part comes from, explaining his logic on why using AI to do homework is totally fine. And so I think you'll find it compelling just to listen to that. It also features an author named John Warner, who is an educator and author. His book is titled More Than Words, which dives into this exact topic and other angles on writing education and why writing is about more than just the words, right? The conversation is thoughtful. It actually kind of hurt my brain, but in a good way. I didn't walk away from the episode with any clear-cut answers. I don't think you will either, but I did walk away thinking more deeply about these issues and thinking about it from some new perspectives, and I think you will too, especially in the last few minutes of the episode where the episode lands on something that really stuck with me, which is the importance of talking to our learners about the use of AI. So if you're feeling all kinds of conflicted about AI in the classroom, or just want to hear a teen make a surprisingly compelling case for never writing another essay himself, or you're simply curious about the Playboy Farty thing that I mentioned, this episode is definitely worth your time. I really enjoyed it. I'll leave a link in the show notes. And after you listen, drop your thoughts on Blue Sky with hashtag EduDuctTape or leave me a message at speakpipe.com/EduDuctTape. So Tuck may not offer much in the way of real-time feedback, but he is an excellent snuggler. M2, from today's sponsor, not as cuddly, but those happy digital eyes on the screen, almost as adorable as Tuck's puppy eyes. You're going to want to go check this out on the site. You'll see what I mean. And once you do, you'll start imagining those sweet eyes watching you as you teach, ready to offer live support or help you reflect with mirror talk afterwards. You can even sign up for a free demo in your school. Just head to swivl.com/M2. That's swivl.com/M2. Again, swivl.com/M2. Oh, wait, Tuck's giving me a different look. What's that one mean? Oh, I think he's got to go potty. Bye, everyone. Today, our guest is Shantel Lott. I said Shantel instead of Shantel, and I was planning on saying Shantel.